Good morning, internet friends. I really didn't want to shut that song off. That was a good one. Whoops. All right. How's everybody doing this morning? It's warm today. Look at that. 40 degrees, 44 degrees, 41 degrees. It was what, 27 yesterday? Oh no, we didn't do any news yesterday. We slept in yesterday. Maybe we did. I don't remember. Roads are looking pretty clear. There's some fog. Turn your lights on. Don't see any hazards anywhere. All in all, it's looking pretty boring out there. It's what, Wednesday? Today is Veterans Day. So the bank's going to be closed. Doctor's office is probably closed. Dentist's office will be closed for sure because they take days off whenever the hell they want. I sat here too long before I got started. Now the coffee's cold. All right. Let's get into this. I got a few things we want to cover real quick. Just a little bit of stuff to bullshit about. Get ready for the day. This one I haven't read through yet, but this is a good one. It's going to tie into a couple other things we're going to talk about here. So the new Portland Police Union president weighs in on the budget cut vote. The new Portland Police Association president is thankful City Council voted down $18 million in budget cuts last week, sharing his thoughts with KATU News in his first interview since taking over the police union at the beginning of November. Brian Hunzeker, who represents the rank and file officers within the Portland Police Bureau, said he hoped to work with each member of the new council and set meetings with each in the upcoming weeks. Hunzeker, who's been with PPB over 20 years, said he hoped to discuss possible police reform ideas and establish relationships with each. I think the vote against cuts by the City Council was a direct correlation to what the community feels and what they want to invest in this city. The community wants to feel safe and secure when they go to work in the morning. The community wants to feel that, and I think our City Council represented our community very well, Hunzeker said. City Commissioner Joanne Hardesty. She's the one that was leading the fight to defund the police, and then, 2 days ago, she called the cops on her Uber driver because she's a bitch and was being a bitch to the Uber guy, and he's like, get out of the car. And so she refused to get out, and then she called the cops on him. But yeah, defund the police, you dumb bitch. They're all hypocritical fucks. Anyway, City Commissioner Joanne Hardesty proposed, my candle went out, proposed cutting $18 million from PPB in the fall budget monitoring process. But 3 of her fellow city council members scoffed at the motion, giving the likely impacts to staffing levels and public safety. Commissioners Dan Ryan and Amanda Fritz joined Mayor Ted Wheeler in voting against the cuts last week, while recently defeated Commissioner Chloe Edule supported the cuts with Hardesty. So, the one other lady with Joanne, who is that? Chloe Edule. Recently defeated. Okay, so they got somebody to replace her. That's good. Portland City Council rejects. Hardesty said the cuts would be archived with savings from vacant positions of officers who had left or retired. But a city budget office, CBO, analysis said those savings were already being used to fund an uptick in overtime costs due to demonstration work. Therefore, they could not be used to fund an $18 million reduction. CBO finds it highly unlikely that the Bureau will be required to reduce staff to balance to an $18 million reduction at this point in the fiscal year, particularly given projected current overspending. CBO cannot speak to the scale, scope, or impact of that staffing reduction, the analysis said. So basically, they're not going to cut it. Like, fuck you, Joanne. All right. Police Chief Chuck Lovell, who cares, shared a list of potential cuts the Bureau would have to make to achieve $18 million in cuts, including information about laying off officers in several units across the Bureau. Hundreds of Portlanders testified on the cuts in a city council meeting in late October, with some urging the council to support them and focus on addressing social issues related to the pandemic, while others said the cuts would make the city less safe at a time when crime has been increasing. Hunzecker felt the cuts were a bridge too far for many Portlanders. Residents are barely getting by as it is, and now you take away their security and their abilities to flourish their own businesses because you take away the one source that provides them security and comfort at night. We just can't have that, Hunzecker told KATU. Protesters have been calling for cuts to the Bureau amid months of unrest following the death of George Floyd in Minneapolis in May, which it makes sense that we would cut the Portland police because in Minneapolis, the cops knelt on somebody's neck. So it's Portland's fault. Hardesty, however, said the calls for reform in Portland date back decades and had little to do with Floyd's death. Right, it doesn't have anything to do with the fact that a whole bunch of anti-cop sentiments built up right now and you seized on that like a friggin' weirdo. She expressed frustration with her colleagues for not supporting the cuts. Nobody supported you, just that other lady that got voted out. We will continue to say Black Lives Matter without doing anything to make Black lives better. Hardesty told her fellow commissioners after it became apparent the cuts would not be supported. I don't think you want to live in a world, and I don't think a lot of your black colleagues want to live in the world. Colleagues? Constituents. There we go. I don't think a lot of your black constituents would want to live in a city with no police. The CBO analysis pointed out the cuts may be easier in a full budget year, and it's not clear if Hardesty will propose another round of cuts in the next budget process. She said she would vote to give PPB, she would never vote to give PPB another penny above what they receive right now. So, she sounds like a communist to me. I'm going to go ahead and just call her out as a communist. Forget her. But that brings me to two things where I don't know if we're going to read the whole article or not, but we got this one here. This is in Portland. This ties directly into the Joanne thing. No evidence. Kevin Peterson Jr. fired Glock at deputies. So, if you remember, Kevin Peterson was, October 29th. So, not that long ago, deputy shot and killed Peterson, 21, on October 29th near the U.S. Bank on Northeast Highway 99 in Hazel Dell. So, oh, this was Washington, but this will probably cause an uproar anyway. This was the one, I believe the one where they had the vigil, and then the Patriots showed up to make sure the Antifs didn't break the Starbucks. So this was the one that did the Vancouver, the big party in Vancouver. So now the investigators are coming out and saying that there's no evidence that he had the gun. So it doesn't make any sense. Detectives, no evidence Kevin Peterson Jr. fired Glock at deputies. Investigators say Peterson had a handgun and was seen on surveillance video pointing it at deputies. So if it wasn't bad enough that they already disagreed on what happened, and there was already a meeting between the Patriots and George Soros. They already had their coming together up there and this will probably reignite that. I haven't seen any postings yet from the Antifs, from the communists that say they're going to go out and break the Starbucks over this one, but I'm sure they will. There was some interesting parts down in here. Right here. Officers with the Regional Drug Task Force were investigating Peterson for conspiracy to deliver controlled substances. Peterson was reportedly in contact with a confidential informant who tipped off authorities about Peterson's plans to sell the informant 50 Xanax pills, which I think in Oregon now 50 Xanax pills is right at the limit. You can have 50. The sale was set to take place about 5:30 p.m. The Quality Inn, whatever. Where to go? Where he was. Detectives in unmarked cars activated their emergency lights and attempted to stop Peterson when he pulled into the Quality Inn parking lot, according to investigators, who added detectives were wearing tactical vests bearing law enforcement identification. So they pulled up, identified themselves, all that, and then he took off. Right here, according to it says detectives ordered him to stop, but he continued and dropped a handgun, according to SWIRT investigators. Detectives allegedly ordered him not to pick up the gun, but Peterson did and continued to run. Detectives did not pursue him further, but advised other units by radio that Peterson was armed. All right, so as he crossed U.S. Bank property, deputies allegedly arrived and ordered him to stop. One deputy said Peterson pulled a handgun out of his sweatshirt pocket. The deputy said he ordered Peterson to drop the gun, but the other man kept walking. The deputy said he fired at Peterson as the man continued toward incoming units. So basically, they told the guy to drop. It's the same story. They tell the guy to drop the gun. The guy keeps going at him, so he shoots him. The cops shoot him. Another deputy said Peterson pointed the gun at him while running northbound, prompting him to fire at Peterson. Video from the bank showed Peterson fall, then set up and point the gun, according to investigators. Deputies again fired at Peterson and gave commands to drop the gun. Peterson eventually set the handgun down, but continued to make some movements, investigators said. Deputies allegedly called for more units to approach Peterson with a shield due to him having a handgun within reach. About 5 minutes after shots were fired, deputies rendered first aid to Peterson, according to the SWIRT report. Peterson was in possession of a Glock Model 23 handgun and had 1 round chambered and 1 round missing from the magazine, according to investigators. At this time, detectives do not have evidence that Peterson fired the gun while in the U.S. Bank lot, according to SWIRT. Investigators are still working to complete the investigation, but have now identified the deputies involved. So, they're not denying that he pulled the gun out and pointed it at him. They're just saying, well, he didn't shoot. So that'll give the communists a reason to go riot and say, well, he didn't shoot at you. He was just running and pointing a gun. Why would you shoot him? And then there was one more that'll probably spark some more. And then right here. So, if you know anything about Portland, and Portland has a racist past. Like Portland's pretty fucked up, to be honest with you. Like, I mean, you go back to when Portland was where they had the China camps, you know. They memory hold the fuck out of that, though. You can't find any information about the China camps. Like, that's not something that's talked about, celebrated, anything like that. We don't. All that waterfront property down there by the river that had all been converted into a prison camp, you know, that's right there in the middle of Portland. But let's forget about that. But anyway, so I figured if you're somebody that's into this stuff and reads and follows this history and knows anything about the groups and organizations and whatnot, you've probably heard of Tom Metzger. He's written some books. He was pretty big in the early the early 90s. late 80s, early 90s, I think it was. Might have been earlier than that. But he's a pretty bad dude. Let's go ahead and read this one. Another chapter in one of Oregon's most notorious hate crime murders has concluded. In the nearly 32 years since his murder at the hands of 3 skinheads, the name of Ethiopian immigrant Mulugeta Serra has not been forgotten. It now adorns several intersections in his adopted Rose City, a memorial to his legacy created by the Urban League of Portland. Let's just keep reading. The death of Tom Metzger, the white supremacist and Ku Klux Klan leader who incited his death, was not honored. Only a few lines in a paid obituary published in the San Diego Union Tribune. Metzger died at 82 on November 4th in California, just 9 days before the 32nd anniversary of Serra's death. So you have the police cuts, you have, or the failing to cut the police budget, you have the new Portland police chief, the new Portland police union guy coming out and saying we're not going to cut this stuff. You've got Joanne Hardesty all bent out of shape about it. Now you've got the Kevin Peterson, they didn't fire on him, and then the death of Tom Metzger. So you've got like 4, probably more things all going on at once and we're getting ready to head into the weekend. So, and if it's just 9 days before the 32nd anniversary, it doesn't say what day that thing took place. We could look it up on the Wikipedias or whatever and see. That'd probably be the protest day, but usually they do it on a weekend if it's a big one. So I figured they have some kind of memorial, or not a memorial, but a memorial for Serra, and that'll bring out the crazies. Serra's assailants were adherents of the White Aryan Resistance Group created and led by Metzger. So again, if you followed any of these people or studied the history of these guys, you know exactly who the White Aryan Resistance is. Pretty well known and published. You can find a lot of information on them. Spurring the Southern Poverty Law Center to sue Metzger for influencing the racial killings in the late 1980s. So he didn't actually commit the crime. Jurors in civil trial found Metzger liable for more than $12 million in damage, the largest such civil verdict in state history at the time. Metzger's house was seized as part of the proceedings, but Metzger had reportedly paid Serra's family only a little of the debt decades later. Serra's uncle, I'm not going to try that one, remembered his nephew was a beloved member of the community at the 30th anniversary of his death. The Tribune reported in 2018. Anytime I speak about him, I get emotional, said Baruhaha, who talked about Serra's decision to seek a better life in America. He said his nephew was a responsible young man whose death had a devastating effect on his family. So Metzger was the leader of the Supremes, and then 3 of his minions went out and beat up an immigrant. And that's part of the reason why Portland has so many issues, is because they don't, I don't think they want to recognize the extreme hatred that they had in the past. And they want to tell everybody else that, hey, look, these things are bad, and we're all out here on the outside looking at Portland, and we're like, yeah, we kind of know that, and you guys should stop doing it. But whatever, what are you going to do? So we'll probably get shut down for talking about Mr. Metzger there. I don't know if that's allowed. But I studied a lot of these things, and so I know a lot of who these up there in Portland. I know a lot of where they, or how do you say it? I know a lot of their history, and it's just not acknowledged properly because it's taboo. because it's a topic that you can't really touch on, or like if you do, or if you have any knowledge of it whatsoever, people start to form a certain opinion about you. You can be a historian and you can learn about any other goddamn thing in the world, but there's like certain subjects, if you touch them, yeah, then people look at you funny. So, whatever. I gotta grab a smoke. All right. Let's do one more. Oh, actually, I got two more. Not that yet. This one. Are we live? Okay. This one here, Biden coronavirus advisor wants U.S. to distribute vaccine globally before it's available to all Americans. Interesting. So, let's figure out what that really means. Oncologist Dr. Zeke Emanuel, one of 10 advisory board members named to Democratic President-elect Joe Biden's coronavirus task force, has pushed the U.S. and other countries to not hoard a coronavirus vaccine. Emanuel, who served as a key architect of the Affordable Care Act under Obama administration, co-authored a paper in September in which he encouraged officials to follow the fair priority model, which calls for a fair international distribution of vaccine, rather than what he and his co-authors characterized as vaccine nationalism. So, this guy's basically saying, we'll get into it, but I mean, he's saying if the U.S. makes it first, that we should give it away before we give it to everybody in the U.S. because that's nationalism if we take care of our citizens first. It's a good goddamn thing I pay taxes, right? I pay taxes so you can fucking give it away to other countries. Why do I pay taxes, you dumb fucks? Why don't I just keep my money? I don't want to give it to other countries. But anyway. The model allows the country that produces the vaccine to hold on to enough of a supply to reach a threshold of herd immunity, RT below 1. Beyond that, the model supports distributing the vaccine internationally. So they're not actually talking about like once everybody's fully vaccinated in the United States to then go ahead and give it to other people. They're talking about once we get it down to where it's like some people are still dying, but it's not too bad. It's not so bad that we gotta wipe everything down every 5 seconds, or, that schools are closed again. It's fine. Only a few are dying. So we got it down to that, and then we can give the vaccine to everybody else, rather than making sure nobody else is dying here in the U.S. Roger that, dude. Okay, beyond that, the model supports distributing the vaccine. Okay, which means giving away or selling doses of the vaccine before it's available to every citizen in that country. Reasonable national partiality does not permit retaining more vaccine than the amount needed to keep the rate of transmission RT below 1, when that vaccine could instead mitigate substantial COVID-19 related harms in other countries that have been unable to keep RT below 1 through ongoing public health efforts. So the places that are doing it wrong, that are just dying like crazy and can't control their own shit, need to get the free vaccine. Like, these are the kinds of policies that if you take them and shrink them down, that are making cities stupid, because like the entire state has to give money so Portland can riot every fucking night. It's the same, like, oh well, this place isn't doing shit for their own citizens who have the COVID, so we need to make vaccine here in the United States and give it to these people over here that can't figure it out. Figure it out, dude. I'm not saying get your own vaccine. I'm saying figure it out, man. We got our vaccine. We got it made. Getting everybody shot up. We're all good. We're all under control. Now you guys can have some. Fuck, man. Now I forgot where we were. Associative ties only justify a government's giving some priority to its own citizens, not absolute priority, Emmanuel wrote with his co-authors. The Trump administration had said that the U.S. will share any coronavirus vaccine it develops with other countries after American needs are met, and that the U.S. will not coordinate with the World Health Organization on distribution. So that's where Joe Biden has already said, we're going to get back in bed with the World Health Organization, China. We're going to hang out with China again because they pay well. And we're not going to focus on this nationalism shit where we take care of the people. So again, why the fuck am I paying taxes if my new president's already coming out and saying, China first? Fuck you. Our first priority, of course, is to develop and produce enough quantity of safe and effective FDA-approved vaccines and therapeutics for use in the United States, Health and Human Services Secretary Alex Azar said during an August visit to Taiwan. But we anticipate having capacity that once those needs are satisfied, those products would be available in the world community according to fair and equitable distribution that would consult in the international community on, Azar said. So, Congress approved nearly $10 billion of your tax dollars, $10 billion of your taxes, for the Trump administration's Operation Warp Speed, which is working with private companies to produce and distribute a vaccine in the U.S. On Monday, Pfizer and BioNTech's coronavirus vaccine moved a step closer toward approval, with the company announcing 90% efficacy in the Phase 3 clinical trial. Emmanuel and his co-authors argued against a proposal by the World Health Organization to distribute vaccines globally at a rate proportional to each country's population, and dismissed the belief that high death toll could be avoided by providing vaccines to countries based on the number of frontline healthcare workers, the proportion of population over 65, and the number of people with comorbidities. Whoops. The World Health Organization proposal fails to consider the fact that death is not the only form of harm, Emmanuel argued, and that prioritizing seniors at high risk would mean sending a disproportionate amount of vaccines to wealthier countries where the average life expectancies tend to be longer. So fuck those old people, right? What's that word? Eugenics? Instead, Emmanuel and his co-authors advocate for focusing on preventing premature death, the consequences of school and business closures, and reducing general transmission of the virus. In other words, they don't give a shit about you. Emmanuel came under focus over the weekend after a 2014 essay he wrote in which he outlines why he doesn't want to live past 75 resurfaced. Emmanuel, 63, wrote that by 75, creativity, originality, and productivity are pretty much gone for the vast, vast majority of us, in his essay titled, Why I Hope I Die at 75. Huh. A member of Biden's new coronavirus task force is a lockdown enthusiast who has written that living past 75 isn't worth it. Americans want our country opened up, not creepy biotechs who enjoy playing God. Since 1960, however, increases in longevity have been achieved mainly by extending the lives of people over 60. Rather than saving more young people, we are stretching out old age. Joe Biden's 77. I like they just put that in there. Biden is 77. Other coronavirus task force advisory board members selected by Biden include Rick Bright, who said he left his position at NIH under President Trump over the administration's embrace of hydroxychloroquine, and Atul Gawande, former CEO of Haven, a healthcare venture founded by Amazon, Berkshire Hathaway, and JP Morgan Chase. They already did it. They've got them in there. Good job. Good job. Get them financial experts back in there. I want to get the shitty loans again, man. Come on. All right. So there you go. Just to recap, this weirdo here wants to make sure that other countries have the coronavirus vaccine that your taxes help pay for, which I don't give a shit what the news says. They tell you that, or Pfizer comes out, oh, the tax didn't help out. There was no incentives. There was no help from the government. Yeah, the government's going to buy all those from you, dildos. So your incentive to build it was to sell them and move products. You're going to mark them up, the government's going to pay for them, and you're going to get money in your fucking pockets and go buy another yacht, dumbass. So don't tell me that the government didn't help us at all. They fucking did. My taxes helped you. So suck it. And this is why I don't mind Medicare for all. Because you fuckers are already running a shell game. Why don't we just take it out to where I don't have to pay a private insurance company on top of that? Just, if you're gonna fuck up the whole game and you're gonna rig it from both sides, don't screw me. All right? Go ahead and just pass that on to the insurance, or to the fucking whatever. You're already spending my tax dollars on all this stuff. Cut out all the middlemen. It's dumb. Anyway. Which brings me to my last point, and then I gotta get going. I got a lot of sitting around to do before it's time to go to work, so let's get this last one in. I've been seeing a lot of people since decriminalization in Oregon. A lot of people around the internet. I'm not gonna lie, I watch a lot of right-wing stuff, but I've noticed this trend of people who are getting pretty upset about decriminalization, and they're freaking out and saying, oh, drugs are legal, oh my god, this is stupid, this is bad. People who pretended to be liberty-loving patriots and all that. Now, yeah, you can have a problem with drugs, okay? I think drugs are bad too. I think drugs are stupid. I think doing most drugs is stupid. Marijuana is medicine. Mushrooms now too. But mostly everything, you know, like the hard shit is bad. I agree with you on that. I'm not going to say shooting heroin is a good thing. But with the war on drugs and with decriminalization, we're reducing government involvement in people's lives. I don't know if you remember how liberty works, or if you remember, you know, how reform works or anything like that, but if you want to move toward a more free society, you need to have less government involvement. Now, I know somebody's going to come on here and tell me that I'm wrong, but I don't give a fuck about your pearl clutching over, oh my god, people are going to do the heroines. I don't care about that over the police are going to be less involved in people's lives. The federal government and the state government is going to have less involvement over people's personal decisions. And people are going to be expected to be responsible for themselves. The government is still there to help. You're still going to have your treatment options. And, you can't have this position if you're a libertarian because there's always a victim in this crime when it comes to drug use. Yeah, if you got a family member addicted to drugs, part of that contract that you enter in with your family is that you're going to try to keep your family, you know, a family. Like, it's kind of your responsibility as your family to kind of help each other out. So if one of your siblings or your dad or your mom or your brother or sister or whoever starts veering off into the heroin usage, you should probably get involved. I don't see why the federal government needs to be the first one, or the state government, the police, or anything like that. But maybe that's just me, because I don't want any government involvement in my life. So, just a reminder, the Libertarian Party, libertarians believe that the war on drugs is ineffective, unfair, and immoral. We advocate ending it. So, I can't go up there to Portland to protest with those people because I would get my ass kicked based on a few factors probably. But if they would pay attention to things like this, they might understand that where their problems actually stem from. But I know they don't really care. So The war on drugs is ineffective at limiting access to dangerous drugs and instead empowers dangerous gangs that make incredible fortunes on the black market for these illegal drugs. So we can see the black market dried up for marijuana. All right. Oh, there's an increase in hard drug usage that's now associated with marijuana. No, dumb fucks. The cartels stopped selling marijuana, and now they had to increase supply of other things to recoup the funds that they lost. Hello. Are you new? But anyway, the war on drugs has imprisoned millions of non-violent people. This is unfair to these people and also uses up resources that would be better spent prosecuting and imprisoning people who are violent. The war on drugs is largely responsible for the militarization of police forces in America. It has pitted police against citizens, and this is unfair to both. Police need to be able to focus on protecting the American public from violent offenders and fraud. Lastly, libertarians believe that it is immoral for the government to dictate which substances a person is permitted to consume, whether it is alcohol, tobacco, herbal remedies, saturated fat, marijuana, etc. The decision belongs to individual people, not the government. Because of all these things, libertarians advocate ending the war on drugs. So, you can go clutch your pearls and be scared that somebody's going to be using heroin or doing the meths or whatnot. But just keep in mind that the individual is the smallest minority. And if you're not willing to protect individual rights, then you can't claim that you care about minorities. That's just my opinion, though. You know, I could be wrong. Let's do one quick check of the roads. Uh-oh. Freeway's backing up. We got about 7 cars out there on the freeway. It's up to 42 degrees. Man, it's warm out there. I might not have to wear my ski bibs to work today. The other day was 27. Don't have any alerts. Road construction, which is always going on. Watch out for the road cones. Looks like the fog's clearing up too. That's nice. Bottoms of the valleys, the fog will stay in there. I'd watch out for that. But other than that, we're good. Man, all right. Let's see if we got any fresh news coming in that just has to be read real quick before we go back to sitting here not doing anything. Let's see. Oh, it's a holiday. It's Veterans Day. All right, well, I'm not seeing any fresh news that we can live without. I think we went through this one. Yeah, we did, about the Antifa's beating up. About the Antifa's beating up the, what was it? They beat up the Democratic headquarters up there in Portland. That was pretty cool. Doesn't look like we got much else going on. So I think we're going to call it. Those were good. That was a good read. Good read session. Glad you guys were here. Glad you're listening. It's good to have you around. Somebody to hang out with in the morning. Hope you all have a great day. And I'll see you guys around the internet. And thanks for supporting the Umfowars. See you at the riots.